Hi everyone, it's Lisa Bacher here. I just wanted to show you my Ruth journal that I have. I'm just going to do a quick flip through just to show you all of the details that are involved. So first of all, we have a 13 by 19 centimeter journal. It has 11 signatures, which works out to being 132 pages. So this book cover, or this book rather, was a book from 1913. I absolutely loved the imagery on it. So for this particular one, I did absolutely nothing to the cover. So you can see that it's all original. It does have some staining that happened throughout its life. I don't know where that came from, but I don't mind it. I think it actually adds to the beauty of it. I'll just quickly show you the spine here. It's all original. It's quite worn, which I absolutely love. And then just the back of it is, again, original. So all I did to the cover was I just added a closure to it, which was just this ribbon that I dyed slightly just to give it more of an aged look. And in this journal, there is a bookmark. What I like to call details are things that I've added in addition to pieces of paper. So in this journal, for instance, there are 59 details, and the pages, or the papers rather, that I use aside from the tea-dyed coffee or tea-dyed paper, I use brands like 7 Dot Studio. For this one, I have some Tim Holtz, some Prima. I know that this one is Prima Finnabar, and you can see throughout that I've used some of those. So for this one, I've just left the inside covers plain, just because I absolutely love how distressed the papers were, and it really goes well with the original cover. So I did a hidden spine, which I do quite a lot. I do those in almost all of the classes that I teach, as well as almost all of the journals that I sell on my Etsy store. And what I mean by hidden binding is I just use either fabric, or for this case, I used a prepared canvas. And then that way it just allows me to keep the original spine without having all of the signatures sewn into it, because again, I absolutely love the original cover of this journal, so I didn't want to interfere with that at all. So I'll just do a flip through here for you. This is just some vintage, I don't know if it was curtains or a tablecloth that I found at a thrift store. Here we have some Tim Holtz, the vellum papers, and each signature will have either a scrapbooking paper or a vellum paper or something vintage, something special, in addition to 2 tea-dyed or coffee-dyed papers. And then something that I like to do specifically for my journals, I've created a bunch of different shapes that I call signature string ends, and they're just a welded shape. And for this journal, I used hearts. I have lots of different shapes that I sell in an SVG file that you can find on my Etsy store. And again, my Etsy store is just Lisa Bacher Art, no spaces. And you can go there, download the digital download for the SVGs, and cut out your own signature string ends. I just like to do that to keep my ends looking clean. And here we just have a vintage sheet music, and it acts always as like a tuck spot, or you can use it for journaling. Here I have a paper clip that I've decorated. Again, another one of my SVG files that I use. They're the stitched bunting shapes, and I just cut them out small. And then they attach perfectly to a paper clip or another piece of ephemera. And I've just decorated that basically there. And then this is just the other side of the signature. Here we have some vintage, I believe this came from a ledger. So it is quite old. I believe the dates on the written pages of the letter were from the early 1930s. So that's one of the features there. And then again, we have two of the copy papers. So there's tons of room for journaling. In particular, I always like doing art journaling in my journals. And when I do that on the copy papers, I just quickly take some glue stick and glue a couple pages together, or I'll add another layer of some sort of substrate, just so that it gives me some strength to the page. And here we just have, again, another signature string end and some vintage paper. And I believe this is in Old German, and I have quite a few books like that that I use. And then we just have a little feature here with just a skeleton flower. I've decorated some of the pages for you already, but there are lots to still be decorated. And I know this is from 7 Dot Studio. So that's this paper here. And then again, copy papers. This is a vintage envelope. It's from 1949. And basically, I've just stuffed a bunch of ephemera into there. Some of it is vintage, some of it is from places like 7 Dot Studio, which is this tag, this card, and then we have some book pages that are vintage, paper doll from Tim Holtz, and then we have an old, I guess it would be when you did deposits back in the day, it came from like a bank book. So that's an actual vintage paper. And just stick that back in there. So it's a usable tuck spot. And then just some more copy paper, the other side of the 7 Dots paper. I believe this is a Tim Holtz paper. Yeah, a couple copy papers. And then this is just a newer ledger paper that I used, and I just tea dyed it. And it gave it a really cool kind of grungy green kind of color, which I love. And then a couple more copy papers. This is the bookmark here. And all I did was I took a vintage key, some scraps that I had, and this was actually just a piece of the scrap paper from the collection that I used here, tied a ribbon to it, and there's a bookmark. So the next page here, it is actually a vintage map, and it came from a school lesson book, a Canadian school book, and I believe it came from the 1950s. And again, I have throughout here some of the actual book pages that came from this book. I unfortunately didn't have a chance to read the book before I took it apart. I was just so excited I couldn't wait. But hopefully one day I can get around to reading what's left, because I do like to do that. And then here I just have a doily with one of the cutouts from a Tim Holtz pack, as well as an actual vintage, I think it might be like a parking coupon or a parking tab, and it came from Pincher Creek, which is very close to where I currently live here in the Crow's Nest Pass. And again, just some more copy papers, some more of the old German text, and I've attached one of the Tim Holtz butterflies there. And then again, like I said, I have decorated some of the pages, and this was just a little, I like to call them clusters. I just use a lot of scraps that I have. I do a lot of collage, so I do have lots of little pieces always. So that's just a little decoration there. And then these are also 7 Dot Studio. couple more copy papers. And this one I used, I'm not sure where I got this. This might be just a Michael's brand, like the Recollections. It's a piece of canvas, and I quite like the decoration on it. Another thing, I love raw canvas for doing art journaling, so I thought that that would go well in there. And then here we have an envelope, and I've just turned it into a tuck spot. There's a couple pieces of Tim Holtz cards, some ephemera there. And then again in here, I've got a bunch of new and vintage ephemera. So we've got some journaling cards in there. That's a 7 Dot Studio. We have a dictionary page, and then I believe this is from a Shakespeare book that I have, a vintage Shakespeare. So that's that. And there's lots of room to add your own stuff. And then the decoupage technique that I did on here, this is just from a tissue wrap from a Tim Holtz collection, and it's just pink roses, and then just some words, some sentiments around. And then again, this is from 7 Dot Studio, and it just matched the collection with the ribbon and the sewing. And then just some coffee or tea dyed paper. This is a vintage paper from, I have a book that teaches you how to do accounting with your typewriter. So this paper is from that particular book. And then again, we have some more Tim Holtz. And then these papers here, they're sketching papers. So if you are do line drawings or sketching, it has like a nice tooth to the paper, so it'd be really good for that. And then one of the illustrated pages from this actual book. And then again, just some cutouts that I downloaded. I believe this one is from another Etsy store that carries SVGs, and their store is Schnibbly Bits. And I use tons of their stencils and cutouts. The designs are absolutely amazing. I really love that store. It's affordable, which I love. And then I just have a vintage stamp there. And then I've just put, I think this is from the Tim Holtz clippings, just some words at the top there of the tab. And just the next page here, this is a prepared canvas. So again, like I said, the hidden binding that I use, this is the material that I use. And I like to use canvas in my journals because I like to add art. And again, this is another 7 Dot Studio, another book page from this actual book. And then I believe this paper here is from Prima, and I could be wrong, but it is quite old. I would say probably from the mid 2010s, I would say that this came out. I don't really remember the collection name. And again, here's another one of the bunting shapes that I sell on my Etsy store. This is from a vintage notebook that I have that I use papers from. And then this is just one of the smaller doilies. This is actually a vintage one, so this is quite old. And then just another journaling card from 7 Dots. And then this is just the back here. This page has some resist on it in doily patterns, so this would be a really good page to do some art journaling on. And then my back cover, we have just a small envelope. I've attached a Tim Holtz butterfly, some vintage stamp, and then this tag is from 7 Dots, and there is another vintage key. And then another, I believe this is a Polish dictionary page. It is vintage. I believe it's from the 1950s. And then again, just another page from a notebook. And I believe this was a grain delivery book. And if you ever have any questions regarding the journals or you want to see some more details, you can always contact me directly. Again, you can visit my Etsy store to see this journal listed there. If you don't see it there, it's because it's been sold. If you do ever want a custom journal, you can always give me a call and I can figure out something for you. I do have quite an extensive collection of vintage books, or if there's something in particular that you have that you would like me to use, you can always contact me and we can talk about that. All right, well, thank you, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.